This is Fox and Friends.
Good news for drivers. Gas prices are dropping, and the VP says it's all part of a big plan. Right like my plan to lose weight by eating more pizza.
If you look at what the president is trying to do, it's also all connected. And I think that it's why it's leading to this very early days of an American renaissance, because you bring jobs back, you give people hope, optimism, you give them a little extra money to spend in their pocket.
The DNC summer meeting, same tired woke playlist like a greatest hits album nobody asked for. Even James Carville's yelling at poor Ken Martin, buddy, you had one job, win elections, not collect participation trophies. Meanwhile, Congress is finally doing something Americans can agree on, helping retired dogs. Yep, a new bill makes sure our canine heroes get the vet care they deserve. Honestly, dogs might be the only ones in D.C. not completely full of it. And with that, Fox and Friends kicks off, bark included.
A memorial keeps growing outside Annunciation Catholic School in Minneapolis, where two kids, just 8 and 10, were murdered Wednesday. Tragic, heartbreaking, and sadly, in today's America, almost predictable. Nate Foy's live with more because, of course, there's always more.
Hey guys, so that memorial at the church behind me, as you mentioned, is growing, and people in the community have come here. They've written messages to kids who are injured. There were 15 injuries, we know, children in this evil attack, 9 of whom remain in the hospital, 1 in critical condition. But of course, 2 kids were killed, an 8-year-old boy and a 10-year-old girl, and their parents are speaking publicly for the first time. We have a picture of the 8-year-old boy, Fletcher Merkel. Take a look at him. His father showed remarkable strength while talking about the evil that took his son's life. Listen to this.
Yesterday, a coward decided to take our 8-year-old son Fletcher away from us. Because of their actions, we will never be allowed to hold him, talk to him, play with him, and watch him grow into the wonderful young man he was on the path to becoming. Fletcher loved his family, friends, fishing, cooking, and any sport that he was allowed to play. While the hole in our hearts and lives will never be filled, I hope that in time our family can find healing. I pray that the other victim's family can find some semblance of the same.
That father's strength, incredible. Meanwhile, Harper Moisky's parents are left shattered, grieving not just for their daughter, but for the sister who adored her. Words fall short, but the bullets sure didn't. Police say the shooter wanted fame, unloading 116 rounds like it was some twisted video game achievement. The FBI calls it domestic terrorism, fueled by an ideology so hate-filled it couldn't even pick just one target: Catholics, Jews, Israel. Trump basically spinning the wheel of hate and landing on all of the above. Congratulations, psycho. You're an equal opportunity bigot.
News also confirms that the shooter's mother has hired a criminal defense attorney, and despite efforts, investigators have not been able to interview her. Police say that she did previously work at the Catholic school where the shooter also previously attended. We'll send it back to you guys.
All right, thanks, Nate. Now to this Labor Day weekend, and America's hitting the road. Here's Philly's airport, where it looks like half the country's already lined up for a $12 pretzel. 17 million travelers, expected basically everyone but your neighbor who forgot to mow his lawn. And if you're driving, gas prices are the lowest in 4 years, thanks to Trump's energy agenda. Imagine that, policies that actually make your wallet heavier, not just your tax bill. Peter Ducey's live at the White House with more.
Good morning, and we see this every summer holiday weekend. White Houses have to look at the gas prices and decide.
So, are gas prices low enough to brag about or still high enough to blame the last guy? Well, the White House checked today's numbers and decided, yep, time to brag. Like a kid bringing home a C+ and calling it honors.
On another matter, as Americans make their Labor Day weekend travel plans, they will be able to enjoy 5-year low gas prices thanks to President Trump fully unleashing American energy dominance. President Trump ended Joe Biden's Green New Scam policies and is delivering on his promise to make America affordable again. These savings at the pump are giving everyday American families more room in their budgets at the end of each month, which is the exact opposite of what we saw under the previous administration.
We made this graphic to show gas prices over the last 4 Labor Days. Started at $3.79, then dipped to $3.77. Don't all cheer at once. Then $3.29, and now $3.20. And Energy Secretary Chris Wright, Trump's guy, says those policies are why it dropped. Translation: actual policy worked, which must really confuse Washington.
President Trump campaigned on that, right? I want Americans to pay less, and I want them to have more job opportunities. Kind of hard to be opposed to that. But he's actually pursued policies and messaging to deliver just that. Produce more energy in America, you get lower prices, you get more jobs. That's our platform.
Officials here at the White House want gas prices to be even lower. They think those policies Secretary Wright was talking about can get them lower, but for the time being, they're very happy with where things are. Back to you.
Very impressive, Peter sprinklers and a leaf blower going at the same time. With gas prices this low, that guy could keep it running all day like it's a symphony of suburban noise. Maybe tell him it's Labor Day weekend, time to give the leaf blower a vacation too. What's next? You deputize me as park manager so I can deliver the message, please. You already do everything else, Peter. Thanks a lot. If he were any closer, I'd shout it myself. All right. Thanks, Peter. It really is remarkable. Everything Trump's juggling right now basically comes down to whether these economic plans work. And guess what? They're breaking policies and regulations in the best way possible. Translation: when government stops strangling everything, you actually get prosperity. We're feeling it in our wallets. We're seeing it at the pump. We're noticing it everywhere. And then the vice president jumps in, calling this jobs comeback a new renaissance. Sure, because nothing says renaissance like cheaper gas and fewer regulations. Watch this.
Now the family is feeling financial stress that it wasn't 10 years ago, wasn't 20 years ago. So sometimes families dissolve in the wake of that. That stress affects the kids. Some of those people turn to drugs, and all this stuff is very connected. And if you look at what the president is trying to do, it's also all connected. And I think that it's why it's leading to this very early days of an American renaissance, because you bring jobs back, you give people hope, optimism, you give them a little extra money to spend in their pocket. Maybe some of those people go and start a business, but then simultaneously we're focused
so here's
on the
the big picture,
because we don't want this
Americans
to come into
are
these
winning
communities
a lot
and destroy people
at the pump,
from
in the economy,
and other,
basically
related
everywhere.
problems.
So much winning, people are joking, they're tired of it. Meanwhile, Democrats are struggling just to come up with a message. Their big kickoff at the DNC summer meeting in Minneapolis: a land acknowledgement delivered by the treasurer, who introduced herself as an indigenous queer woman. Translation: checking every woke box on the list before even getting to policy. Listen to how they started things off, because nothing says we've got ideas like a ritual of self-labeling.
Let's talk about the land for a second. The DNC acknowledges and honors the Dakota Oyate, the Dakota people, who are the original stewards of the lands and waters of Minneapolis. As Democrats, I ask of every one of you to not allow land acknowledgements like these to simply be the checking of a box. Be curious, ask questions.
So it's not even clear what action she wants taken, but here's the thing. Democrats running on empty ideas with the midterms looming still lead off with one. Let's stop everything and remind everyone that America is terrible to indigenous people. Inspiring, right? Nothing says vote for us like a guilt trip before dessert. And then James Carville, who's never been shy about torching his own party, comes in swinging, basically yelling, "Focus on actual issues, you idiots." Even he's blasting this land acknowledgement obsession. When James Carville's your voice of reason, you know you've lost the plot. Why are you bringing this up in an election? This is an election, and the DNC is not the place to discuss this. Understand this. The DNC does not exist to right wrongs. It doesn't exist to acknowledge the more unpleasant parts of history. It doesn't exist to make people feel good. It exists, get this through your head, to win elections. Now, do you think that is going to help us win elections by talking about land theft from the Dakotas? We're not. What is Ken Martin doing that? You don't have but one job, Ken. It's to win. You're supposed to try to win FG elections. And all of this comes down to a president who, get this, actually stole half the Democrats' issues and then embraced something called common sense. Imagine that. Instead of endless ideological cage fights, he just focused on things that actually work. And here's the deal. If the economy tanks, Trump's a failure. But if it works, and so far it looks like it is, then Democrats won't be running for office. They'll be running for cover. Even James Carville agrees. But then we're back to the Democrats' favorite pastime, virtue signaling. One person floats an idea like a land acknowledgement, and suddenly it spreads faster than TikTok dances. Except there's no substance behind it. In Seattle, at least some restaurants acknowledge the land and cut a check. That's called putting your money where your mouth is. But pretending this helps you win elections, that's called delusional. Because let's be honest, land acknowledgements don't lower gas prices, don't make streets safer, and don't fix the border. They just make politicians feel better while Americans are wondering why their rent is higher than their IQ. So Carville's rage makes sense. He's mad they're not talking about anything real. And when James the Reagan Cajun is the sane one in the room, you know the Democrats are cooked. We shall see. Meanwhile, let's hit the headlines. A judge has extended a restraining order blocking the release of certain records in the Brian Kohberger case. The families of Ethan Chapin and Madison Mogen want a permanent injunction because, shocker, no one wants gruesome crime scene photos on the internet like some twisted Reddit gallery. No word yet on when the judge will make a final call. Kohberger, by the way, is already serving 4 life sentences for murdering 4 University of Idaho students back in 2022. 4 lives taken, and now his only real hobby is collecting consecutive life terms. It's a shocking case, though. Sadly, not that shocking anymore, and we'll dig into it with border guard Tom Homan when he joins us later this morning. Translation: expect blunt truths and zero sugarcoating. ICE agents arrested a 3-time deportee and convicted pedophile because apparently the 4th time's the charm, living in a San Diego daycare. Yes, a daycare. Officials say the Mexican national was shacked up with his wife, a DACA recipient running the in-home operation. ICE called the situation sickening, which is government speak for how did this clown make it back 3 times before we noticed he was literally hiding out next to the juice boxes. Did you see this? Mexico's Senate turning into WrestleMania, 2 top politicians shoving and screaming at each other all over the idea of U.S. military action against drug cartels. Because nothing says serious governance like a full contact debate. And this circus comes just as Secretary of State Marco Rubio preps for a trip to Mexico and Ecuador. The mission? Crack down on illegal immigration, dismantle cartels, and stop fentanyl trafficking. In other words, he's going south to do the job. Their Senate was too busy slap fighting to finish. UNC football coach Bill Belichick and his 4-year-old girlfriend Jordan Hudson just filed a trademark for the term gold digger. Yes, you heard that right. They want to turn an insult into a jewelry brand. Bold move. The 2 went public last June, triggering plenty of eye-rolling over the rather generous age gap. Hudson's been called a gold digger while running Belichick's company, but instead of denying it, they're cashing in on it. Why fight the critics when you can slap their words on a bracelet and sell it back to them? So, Emily, I'm guessing you've got thoughts. Reports say she's already sitting on an $8 million real estate portfolio. So, yeah, gold digger might sound harsh, but also kind of accurate. She's also managing Belichick's brand, and together they've filed for 17 trademarks. That's not dating, that's vertical integration. Clearly, she's eyeing QVC and building an empire. But the real test? Monday, his first game as UNC head coach. We'll see if he's focused on football or distracted by trademark paperwork. Sure, leaning into the insult might sound like savvy PR, but here, it just looks like, well, branding desperation. And no, nobody here's buying their wife a gold digger bracelet for Christmas. That's what we call a hard no. We'll check back later to see if the empire ever takes off or just stays a punchline. And that's it for tonight. Gas prices down. Democrats still lost. Mexico's Senate auditioning for WWE. And Belichick turning gold digger into a brand. Only in America, folks. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment unless you're too busy trademarking your own bad decisions. See you next time.